In modern applications, there's a tendency to write your SQL or generate it within the app layer. This means that the credentials for the database in the application layer must be granted full access to at least read the tables. This poses quite a big problem. You see, if your website's compromised and your credentials are stolen, it's possible for an attacker to log directly into your DB and start exfiltrating your data. It doesn't have to be this way. Let's see how we can convert the database into a high security fort using stored procedures. In order to demonstrate this, I'm going to be using these two files, runQuery and runproc. I'll also be granting temporarily select on ytdata.videodata to TS service account. Okay, let's take a quick look at runQuery. First we connect to the DB, then we define the query in the app code, and then we just run it and return the results. So let's do that now. And there you go. You can see my videos stored in that table. Next, let's look at runproc. This does exactly the same thing but in a slightly different way. Here I'm connecting to the DB, I'm creating a connection pool, I'm running the query through my abstraction, and I'm closing the pool and then returning the data. Let's run that now, and you'll see we get exactly the same results. Now that we've proved that these both work, let's revoke the select permissions from TS service account. This time when running runQuery we get an error. Permission denied for table video data. This is exactly as we'd expect. For those of you not used to stored procedures, however, when we run runproc, we would also expect this to fail. So let's try it. And we get data back. And just to confirm, both of these queries are using the exact same credentials. If I look in here for this one, it's calling dbuser and dbpassword from secrets. And if we look at runQuery, it's doing exactly the same. To understand how this can happen, let's look under the hood at what's going on. So in runproc, let's go and look at the abstraction call. And all it's doing is getting a channel ID and passing that to a call called MCP API getChannelVideoData. This is actually the name of a stored procedure. The procedure executes and it returns the results as a ref cursor. So let's have a look at the proc now. To the untrained eye, this is simply selecting from the same tables using the same fields that we used in runQuery. Now you will notice that the table data is in a schema called ytdata, and this procedure is in a schema called MCP API. In Postgres, this separation by schema isn't strictly necessary, it will work without, but it's always good practice to separate your code from your data. And in some DBs, it's actually impossible to do this without having separate schemas. And this is very important. Whilst Postgres does it this way, other databases will do it slightly differently. So always check your current database documentation before trying to do this and test it afterwards. Okay, so how does this magic happen in Postgres? Well, it's quite simple. We simply add security definer. This instructs the DB that this procedure runs with the permissions of the person who created it, not with the permissions of the person actually running it. Because you're effectively running with potential super user permissions in this procedure, you need to set a search path to limit where Postgres will look for data and other objects. So here, the search path just says look in ytdata and look in pgtemp, nowhere else. Whoever's going to run create or replace procedure must have access to the tables that the procedure calls, otherwise this won't work because it won't have permissions either. But once you've done this, all you need to grant to the actual service account is execute on the procedure itself, not the underlying tables. Execute allows that person to run the procedure. The procedure itself then just has access to do whatever it's allowed to on the table based upon the creator's permissions. This is a really important pattern, because whilst it's true an attacker can still call the stored procedures, it can't just run a full select on the table and dump it straight into a file. Instead, they can only get what the procedure allows them to get. In this case, they would need to know the channel ID to pull just one channel at a time. Furthermore, I don't have a procedure to return a list of channels, so it's impossible for them to get that unless they actually know a user ID in order to pull the channels for that user. By designing your API properly to limit scope, you make it very difficult for an attacker to actually steal data from your DB. In the world of AI code, where we're not reviewing quite as closely, where security vulnerabilities are slipping in occasionally, there's been several big cases of this happening, your app layer is far more vulnerable than it's ever been. So having extra layers of defense between your app layer and your database is really important to protect your customer data. Because in today's climate, it's no longer just a big reputation hit. There's potentially massive fines, and in cases where there's proven negligence, even jail time. In the next video, the last in the series, we will be looking at exactly how I designed my database abstraction to be lightweight, lean, and very, very efficient. Don't miss out, click it top left as soon as it's ready. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.